Hey everybody, I'm David Spradley and this is WTF is Happening in America. We're living in historic times, and I know everything's crazy out there, but I think that right now is a great time for us to stop and reflect on who we are, why we got here, and also let's figure out where we're going, because that's the only way we're going to get ourselves out of this mess. On this YouTube channel, I'm going to hit on analysis of current events, make historical comparisons, and also hopefully expand your vocabulary with a few new awesome words. So be sure to like and subscribe if you want more informative political content. On this episode, I want to talk about a word. It's a very important word, but it's not a word that we use. It's actually a word that we don't use, and that's why it's important. This word is called graft. So what is political graft? Well, here's the dictionary definition. Graft is a form of political corruption, being the unscrupulous use of a politician's authority for personal gain. Similarly, political graft occurs when funds intended for public projects are intentionally misdirected in order to maximize the benefits to private interests. And outside of a few odd newspaper articles here and there, graft is one of those words that has disappeared out of our everyday vocabulary. So why would a word disappear from our vocabulary? Could it be that it's become part of our normal everyday expectations? It's important that we know what graft is because we need to put a label on something that's wrong. In order to fix something, you have to first label it and identify it in order to remove it. When graft happens, it sucks up your tax money that could be going to improve the lives of you and your community, and instead it goes to line the pockets of those who are committing it. I'm talking about anything from better roads, schools, tap water, or even coronavirus testing. These are all things that public tax money should pay for. So why aren't they sometimes? Well, for example, remember the $2 trillion coronavirus aid package that Congress passed in April? Of course you don't, because April feels like 10 years ago. Well, guess what? Right now, we don't actually know where a lot of that money went. And it could be a long time before we ever do. So why is that? Well, let me quote this Washington Post article to you. The names of businesses that collectively will receive hundreds of billions of dollars in coronavirus relief from the federal government may not be disclosed publicly. And critics say that could make the massive spending program vulnerable to fraud and favoritism. The $2 trillion CARES Act approved by President Trump in April requires that the names of recipients of some forms of federal aid be published. But those requirements do not extend to significant portions of the relief bill. Chief among those omissions is the $349 billion expected to be doled out to small companies in chunks as large as $10 million a company. The rescue legislation does not compel the Small Business Administration to disclose the recipients. And not only that, the article also says that potentially even larger gap involves the trillions going out to businesses under the auspices of the Federal Reserve. The CARES Act and other legislation generally require the Fed to disclose the loan recipients and the amounts they receive, but there's a significant exemption. The Fed Chairman, Jerome H. Powell, may request that the information be kept confidential, meaning only congressional leaders would be given access to the information. Wow. Well, it's anyone's best guess where our money's going. Wow, it's only $2 trillion. What the fuck? This kind of political graft has been going on in the Trump administration for the last 3.5 years at an alarming and historical rate. And it affects us. It affects us how our tax money reaches us, or in this case, doesn't. When Donald Trump was sworn into office, he claimed that he was going to divest from his businesses in order to avoid any conflict of interest with his business dealings. But in fact, he never really did. He did relinquish his leadership positions, but he just passed it on to his sons, Donald Jr. and Eric. He still owns his businesses. So he's absolutely still profiting from his businesses while president, and he's trying to set himself up for his businesses to be even more profitable once he leaves office. As Politico put it, in 3 years in the White House, Donald Trump has accomplished something no president before him has done, fusing his private business interests with America's highest public office. Or in other words, graft. That's graft. Since he refused to sell his ownership stake in his business, Donald Trump has put American ethics into uncharted territory. And let's be real, this is Banana Republic type behavior from our government.
The Banana Republic?
Yeah, you've never heard that?
Like the store?
No, but before the store, a Banana Republic was like the term that we gave to like South and like Latin American countries that just like where the government was just like basically run by like a big business. Like basically the Chiquita Banana Company in Colombia would basically like tell the government what to do kind of thing. You know what I mean? Trump is a massive contradiction to former President Jimmy Carter, who famously put his family peanut farm, yes, that's right, he was worried about his peanut farm, into a blind trust. Jimmy Carter actually like ran a peanut farm in Georgia before he was president. He's from the South. This blind trust was run independently from anyone in the Carter family. But who's still running Trump hotels? Donald Jr. and Eric. Donald Trump is absolutely abusing the office of the presidency to further his own business interests. That's political graft. It's graft. Again, it's all graft. In fact, if you study his actions, it becomes clearer and clearer that he puts his own interests ahead of the interests of the American people. The big question is if what he's doing is also against the law of the Constitution. And the answer is yes. I mean, oh my God, yes. It's yes. Of course it is. Let me read it to you. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8 of the Constitution states that no title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of Congress, accept any present, emolument, office, or title of any kind whatsoever from any king, prince, or foreign state. Now in that clause, there are some more old words that we don't use anymore, like emolument. But there are a lot of words that we still do use every day. Like no and whatsoever. So hopefully everyone's still awake, because what the hell is an emolument? Well, it's an old word that usually translates to mean payment for employment or compensation for a job. So basically the founders of our democracy were worried about people holding an office receiving gifts or payments from foreign entities because that would influence their actions. The problem with old words like emolument, it sounds like an emulsion, like I'm baking emulsions, is that legally you can argue over the definition of what that word means. And in fact, guess what? That's what President Trump's lawyers are doing. And they're very good at it. Because they get a lot of practice. Because he's always in court. Because he's getting sued by everyone he's ever met. Because he's corrupt as fuck. Trump's lawyers are arguing that the emoluments clauses were not designed to reach commercial transaction that a president may engage in as an ordinary citizen through his business enterprises. So in other words, they're saying that since President Trump isn't directly receiving money from foreign governments, but instead is receiving them through his business dealings, then it's fine. But come on, that obviously isn't keeping with the spirit of the law. He's still profiting either way. That's like saying it's illegal for me to pay a prostitute $5,000 to have sex with me, but if the prostitute has a bag of Doritos that I purchased from her for $5,000, and she just happens to be so grateful that she has sex with me anyway, then it's totally okay. Essentially, it's the same illegal activity. You're just using an overpriced commercialized bag of junk as your middleman. Look, if we stop and pay attention, I think we can all figure out what's going on here. The question is, why is anyone putting up with it? The emoluments clause is designed to stop presidents from accepting foreign money because it compromises their integrity and the choices they make. Because that's just what happens when you have an existing profit motive. It's the same reason that Pete Rose is banned from baseball for life. When you're the manager of a team and you have money riding on the game, that threatens the integrity of the game. And if you have any doubts on what I'm saying, then don't take my word for it. Back when the Constitution was ratified, then Virginia Governor Edmund Randolph explained the purpose of the emoluments clause. This is a direct quote from Edmund Randolph. This restriction was provided to prevent corruption. End of story. Oh my God. Like that, okay, that's it. Do we need to keep going? But he does go on to tell a story that explains the clause's origins.
Tell it like Edmund Randolph.
Okay. An accident, which actually happened, operated in producing the restriction. A box was presented to our ambassador by the king of our allies. It was thought proper, in order to exclude corruption and foreign influence, to prohibit anyone in office from receiving or holding emoluments from foreign states.
Yay!
Don't ask me to do that again. See, the example that Edmund Randolph gave was just a box. It was worth so much less than the amount of money that Trump receives from foreign governments that stay at his hotels. And in fact, there are 2 such lawsuits against President Trump that are currently going on for violating the emoluments clause. However, they're being held up in appeals court to delay ruling. The cases are likely to wind up going to the Supreme Court, our nation's highest court, to decide if he is in fact in violation of the emoluments clause. Well guys, if there's still any doubt that Donald Trump violates the emoluments clause every day, then let me help you out a little bit. I'm going to read a full list of the ways that Donald Trump has received money through his hotel businesses while serving as president. This is money that he's received from both foreign and domestic groups. Courtesy of New York Magazine, here is a long list of the groups that have paid Donald Trump for access and influence to his administration by staying at his hotels. This list will go from his inauguration in 2016 to 2018, after which I imagine they stopped counting because the examples are too numerous. Now this is a lengthy list, so if you get bored and you want to skip ahead, then go ahead and jump to the timestamp at the bottom of your screen. Let's get started. December 7th, 2016. Diplomats from Bahrain moved the country's National Day celebration from the Ritz-Carlton to the ballroom at the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. I wonder why. January 23rd, 2017. Saudi Arabia holds a bash at the hotel after renting rooms for lobbyists for 5 months. Donald Trump's haul, $270,000. February 25th, 2017. The Kuwaiti embassy, reportedly pressured by the Trump Organization, moves its National Day celebration from the Four Seasons to Trump's hotel. And not surprisingly, American businesses have also sought access to the Trump administration by paying to stay at his hotels. March 1st, 2017, the National Railroad Construction and the Maintenance Association hosts a dinner at the hotel, drenched in Trump-branded coffee and wine. March 22nd, 2017, the American Petroleum Institute holds its board meeting in Trump's hotel, where it meets with the EPA chief Scott Pruitt. A month later, Pruitt suspends drilling regulations. April 1st, 2017. Rates at the hotel jumped to $653 per night, a price hike of 60% since Trump's inauguration. And back to foreign governments, April 21st, 2017. A Turkish government council holds its annual conference at the hotel. The group's chair founded the company that paid $530,000 to former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn for lobbying work. Wasn't that the same guy that got convicted of a crime and sentenced to prison? July 17th, 2017. E-cigarette makers hold their annual conference at the hotel. 10 days later, the FDA announces it will delay federal oversight of e-cigarettes until 2022. August 11th, 2017. A federal agency accidentally posts the hotel's Q1 profits, $2 million. And finally, on October 4th, 2017, the Trump administration announces the repeal of Obama's Clean Power Plan, which would have encouraged states to replace coal with wind and solar energy. The plan would have cut climate warming pollution from coal plants by 1/3 and saved taxpayers and consumers as much as $93 billion per year. God, who would want that? The venue for the mining board's meeting, the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. Well, I'm glad that's over. That was a long list. Just kidding, that only covered Trump's International Hotel in Washington, D.C. Here's a list of what happened at his infamous Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. Again, if this gets too boring, then go ahead and skip to the timestamp at the bottom of your screen. December 31st, 2016, Mar-a-Lago hosts a New Year's Eve party with Trump, priced at $525 a ticket. His take for the night? $400,000. God, it pays to be president. January 1st, 2017. The resort quietly doubles its initiation fee to $200,000, a potential haul of $2 million. In return, club members get access to the president on par with White House officials. I'm sure no conflicts of interest happened there. April 4th, 2017. The State Department runs an online promotion for Mar-a-Lago. Okay, again, the State Department ran an online promotion for his hotel. How does it not get more conflict of interest-y than that? And guess what? This is also picked up by embassy websites in England and Albania, of all places. Sure, nothing shady goes on there. April 6, 2017. Trump and Ivanka meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping at Mar-a-Lago. That same day, China approves trademarks for 3 of Ivanka's brands. Nothing like killing 2 birds with 1 stone, am I right? Or did he actually accomplish anything on behalf of America for China? Was it all just Ivanka? I'm just throwing that out there. It could just be all for her. He probably didn't do anything for us. Just guessing. Oh, and by the way, financial disclosure filings show that Trump's revenues from the resort soared by 25% during his presidential run. July 7th, 2017. The administration increases the allotment of visas for foreign workers. So much for bringing back American jobs. Within days, Mar-a-Lago applies for 76 of the new visas, even though a local jobs agency has over 5,000 qualified American applicants to fill the openings. November 10th, 2017, the Republican Attorney General's Association, which has spent more than $75,000 at Trump's properties in 5 months, holds a reception at Mar-a-Lago. It later forms a working group to partner with the Trump administration to roll back environmental protections. Because who needs those? F the environment. December 9th, 2017. Oxbow Carbon, a major energy company that would benefit from the Keystone XL pipeline, holds its annual holiday gala at Mar-a-Lago. December 31st, 2017. Trump boosts ticket prices for his New York Seafood Bash at $750. Taxpayers foot the bill for lights, generators, and tent rental. Great, I don't want that money anyway. January 9th, 2018. The Trump administration opens offshore drilling in all but one state, Florida, where the oil and gas exploration could hurt business at Mar-a-Lago. Perfect. February 26, 2018. An Israel-focused charity, The Truth About Israel, relocates its gala to, you guessed it, Mar-a-Lago, in appreciation of the president's support for Israel. Oh, seriously, guys, this time I'm serious, that was all. Of his American holdings, we haven't even gone over his foreign properties yet. I've got another list for you, because I know you wanted it. You wanted that list, didn't you? You wanted a list. Because guess what? He owns more property and businesses outside of America. In fact, on November 14th, 2016, in a call with Argentina's President Mauricio Macri, did I say that right? I don't know. Trump reportedly pushed for approval to build a Trump Tower in downtown Buenos Aires. Ivanka Trump, who oversees the family businesses with her brothers, sits in on the call. And the travel ban, you guys remember the travel ban in January 2017? All those countries that were full of terrorists and everything? Well, he left off 3. Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. And guess where he owns businesses? Ding, 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 ding. Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. Who would imagine that? Trump's company was paid as much as $10 million for the use of his name on a property in Istanbul, Turkey. And guess what? While he was campaigning, he opened up 8 new businesses in Saudi Arabia. But no. He had the American people in mind for that one. The 8 new businesses, they're for us. It's for us. Yeah. That was sarcasm. I've been drinking. February 14th, 2017. Trump, who owns stock in large oil companies, allows oil companies to hide the payments they make to foreign governments in exchange for extraction rights. Because, like, why would you want those things to be public? The move comes only 2 months after ExxonMobil, which lobbied for the concession, donated $500,000 to Trump's inauguration. But I'm sure he didn't benefit from that financially. April 29th, 2017. Overriding diplomatic concerns, Trump invites Filipino President Rodrigo Duterte to the White House. To gain favor with Trump, Duterte had appointed the president's partner of the Trump Tower in Manila as his economic envoy to the U.S. Again, there's just no overlap. How does he have any time to run the country when he's so busy not running his businesses? May 16th, 2017. The Republican Governors Association holds a conference at Trump's clubs in Miami, where members strategize with corporate executives over how to persuade the new administration to dismantle environmental regulations and enact other business-friendly moves. Trump's take for the conference? A measly $400,000. which is the average yearly salary of a president. He got it in one day, one meeting. Oh, and 2 days later, Trump proposed slashing the housing and urban developments budget, but he retained a subsidy that has poured more than $490 million into a housing complex in Brooklyn, where, yeah, you guessed it, he's got a financial stake. Yeah, he does this stuff. September 19th, 2017, reports reveal that the Pentagon spends $130,000 a month in rent at Trump Tower, more than twice as much as other tenants. So again, your money is going toward the Pentagon paying a higher rate to stay at Trump Tower. A higher rate than normal. Again, why a higher rate? Graft. That's graft. It's graft. Oh, and guess what? On October 16th, 2017, GEO Group, which is the nation's largest for-profit prison company, because those guys are awesome, they hold their annual conference at Trump's National Doral. At the Trump National Doral? I don't know. What's it called? The Doral? I don't know what it's called. I should look it up. The company poured $450,000 into Trump's campaign and inauguration after Obama announced plans to end all federal contracts with private prisons. GEO also hired 2 of Jeff Sessions' former aides, plus a former Trump organization employee as lobbyists. And guess what? The investment paid off. More graft. A month after Trump took office, he ended the ban on private prisons. It's just that, it's that simple. Give money to Trump, he does stuff. Unless you're a taxpayer, in which he already has your money, so he doesn't have to do anything for you. GEO received a $110 million contract to build a new immigration jail in Texas, plus $44 million a year to operate it. Earlier this year, the Federal Bureau of Prisons announced it would slash some 6,000 jobs and transfer more inmates to private facilities. October 11th, 2017, Trump hawks his golf course during a major speech to South Korea's legislature. November 8th, 2017, a payday lender lobbying group announces it will hold its 2018 annual conference at the Trump National Doral. I guess it is what it's called, it doesn't roll off the tongue. 2 months later, the administration announces it is considering scrapping a rule that requires payday lenders to stop taking advantage of clients who cannot pay their loans. Because they're the good guys. I haven't even gotten into the ways in which Trump's family profits from Daddy being the president. But why don't we save that for another video? I know you guys are tired. So keep in mind, none of what I read even includes 2019 or 2020. Now you might be thinking, okay, so what? Dave just listed 32 isolated incidences of how the president abuses the office and makes money off it. And who cares how he gets his money? It doesn't affect me, right? But I would encourage you to think about it another way. Because our country desperately needs leadership right now. Being the president is a full-time job, and leading the country during this mess requires absolute focus and dedication to the people, for the people. 2 phrases that don't come easily or naturally to a narcissist. And here's the problem with a businessman leading the country. As a businessman, it is your job to grow your brand, your wealth, and your power. But America doesn't need a businessman to do that right now. It needs a leader. Leaders accept responsibility. And that's somebody who's not only going to steer the ship in the right direction, it's also someone who's going to stop the infighting among the crew and lead them toward a common goal. So as always, we need to demand more from our government. Graft is a real and dangerous thing, especially when we've just expected it as the norm in politics. And if we don't stop it now, it's just going to get worse and worse. Because our government will stop seeing us as people that need to be led, and instead they'll see us as people who can be taken advantage of. I'm David Spradley, and this is what the f*** is happening in America.